Is this how the Bucks are going to look next season? Hey, do you want to win a PS5 with Madden NFL 21 and NBA 2K21? We'll be announcing the winner as soon as they come out, so be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. The Oklahoma City Thunder explored trades for Chris Paul after the team acquired him in the July deal that sent Russell Westbrook to the Houston Rockets, though none materialized. And one of the teams Paul reportedly had interest in was the Milwaukee Bucks. On the court, Paul would have been a logical fit for the Bucks. His ability to both guide an offense and play off the ball as a spot-up shooter would have paired well with Giannis Antetokounmpo, who often initiates Milwaukee's offense. It would also have given the team another player capable of breaking down a defender and getting off a good look late in the shot clock. And having another talented veteran to take some of the postseason scoring and playmaking load off of the Greek Freak would have been a plus, especially with persistent questions about whether Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe are up to that task. The Milwaukee Bucks have to make some kind of move to improve their team with Giannis Antetokounmpo's impeding free agency. Chris Paul's name has been mentioned the most in regards to Milwaukee, but actually putting together a trade package is a little more difficult. With Giannis Antetokounmpo sidelined due to an ankle injury, the Miami Heat closed out the Milwaukee Bucks in 5 games to end their historic 2019-20 campaign. With their season now over, trade speculation around Antetokounmpo is going to flood the mainstream media more than it ever has before, even though he still has 1 year left under contract. The Bucks should look to bring another all-star aboard, that being Chris Paul, to give the team its best shot at convincing the Greek Freak to stay long-term. With 10 all-star appearances, 8 all-NBA honors, and 9 all-defensive awards just scratching the surface of his highly decorated resume, bringing Chris Paul aboard based off that would be a no-brainer. However, what has scared many away is his monstrous contract, which currently has 2 years, $85,569,960 left on it. Before the 2019-20 season, it seemed that Paul's growing age and substantial contract were too much of a gamble for anyone to pursue. When the OKC Thunder traded for him, a rebuild seemed to be the route they were heading towards, receiving just a 0.2% chance to make it into the postseason. However, the guard flipped the script, averaging 17.6 points, 6.7 assists, and 5 rebounds per game this season as he guided his team into the postseason and proved that he could still be a top point guard in this league. Coincidentally, that is precisely what Milwaukee needs. For a 35-year-old point guard, $85 million is certainly not a welcoming deal to take on. But for a team that could be on their last leg with their superstar, it just might be worth the price tag. For 3 years now, the most significant question mark synonymous with the Milwaukee Bucks has been if the team has surrounded the MVP with the proper pieces to win a title. For 3 years in a row, the answer has been no. The most prominent example of this has been their starting point guard, Eric Bledsoe. In 3 straight seasons with the Bucks, Bledsoe has regressed in the postseason and has undoubtedly been the team's weakest link. In Milwaukee's 9 playoff games this season, the guard recorded his worst showing with the team, averaging just 11.6 points, 5.9 assists, and 4.6 rebounds per game, which should be the final straw. The 30-year-old has been a liability in the postseason, and an upgrade is long overdue. That upgrade needs to come in the form of Chris Paul, who will become a trade target for several teams this offseason. For Milwaukee, pursuing a trade for Paul is a championship-caliber move and one that they must attempt. Bringing in CP3 would unquestionably give Giannis Antetokounmpo his best teammate ever, and potentially the one that can finally help the team get over their postseason woes. Adding fuel to the fire is a well-known fact that before he got traded to Oklahoma City in the last offseason, Paul had Giannis and Milwaukee on his mind. The Ringer's Ryan Russillo spoke on Adrian Wojnarowski's The Woj Pod last October, stating that he heard rumblings of Paul's desire to play with the MVP. I had heard he wanted to go to Milwaukee. Of course you'd want to play with Giannis. Now, if it came from Woj, you know this trade has a 99% chance of happening. The OKC Thunder announced Tuesday night that they and head coach Billy Donovan have both mutually agreed to part ways, citing that the team's future direction was unclear. Cryptic as that might sound, it seems that a rebuild is coming for the Thunder once the season officially concludes. This means they will likely make their most valuable asset, Chris Paul, available for trade, searching for a collection of players and draft picks in return. If that interest is still there between Paul and the Bucks, Milwaukee needs to give Oklahoma City a call immediately. For the Bucks, the most difficult part about this trade could be matching Paul's hefty salary, but the team could undoubtedly pull it off if they're willing to go all in to bring in such a talented piece. With Giannis Antetokounmpo under contract for 1 more season, the Milwaukee Bucks need to make a seismic change with their roster if they want to turn things around next season. If they plan on running it back with this same team, Antetokounmpo could already have 1 foot out the door when the 2020-21 season eventually rolls around. Chris Paul to the Bucks makes all the sense in the world and could be Milwaukee's last hurrah to prove to Giannis that they can win before he hits the free agent market. A trade of this magnitude could have players discussing wanting to come to Milwaukee rather than leaving it. Milwaukee is well aware that they need to undergo some roster construction before next season if they plan on keeping the likely back-to-back MVP around for the foreseeable future, and Paul seemed to be the ideal candidate to pair with him. A surefire future Hall of Famer that proved all season long that he could be a stellar leader and still play at the highest level could do wonders for Milwaukee, including giving Giannis his best on-court teammate yet. As for a potential personality clash between Antetokounmpo and Paul, that is just foolish. Paul's veteran presence on the court and in the locker room is something that almost every team in the league would like to get their hands on, especially a Milwaukee team that desperately needs to prove to their star player that they can surround him with talent. If Paul is not atop their list of potential targets to bolster their roster, who could be? Are the Bucks going to sit around with their fingers crossed hoping that someone like Drew Holiday, Bradley Beal, or Buddy Hield suddenly become available for trade? Given the urgency surrounding this franchise, doing so seems like a disaster in the making. The world practically gave up on Chris Paul following his subpar performance in 2019. Having finished a disappointing season with the Rockets, he was blamed and subsequently exiled to Oklahoma City in favor of the younger and more athletic Russell Westbrook. But CP3 has made the most of his time with the Thunder, and even before the hiatus went into effect in early March, it was clear that he wasn't yet done being one of the NBA's most elite guards. In exchange for the star point guard, the Bucks could offer something along the lines of Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, Ersan Ilyasova, Dante DiVincenzo, and multiple future first-round picks. Paul is one of the most experienced players in the league, and at his age, he's been through quite a few playoff battles, especially with facing the Warriors. Paul has run into some of the best teams in the NBA for many seasons in a row. With the Rockets, he had to play against Stephen Curry and the mighty Warriors. With the Clippers, he always ran into some of the best teams in the NBA, including the San Antonio Spurs. While many will claim Paul has never been to the NBA Finals, he has dealt with some of the best teams in the past decade. These playoff battles and the experience of playing at the highest level will greatly help the Bucks, who are still quite young with their superstar Giannis at the helm. Quite simply, Paul is a better point guard than Eric Bledsoe. Paul has incredible intangibles, including floor leadership and basketball IQ. While Bledsoe is very gifted athletically, he does not come close to Paul when it comes to leading a group of players on the floor and running the show at the point guard position. Paul has been one of the best point guards in the NBA for many years, and while he has deteriorated due to age and attrition, his intangibles will never leave him. Paul will make everyone around him better when he is on the floor, and he will always make the right play. Not to mention, Paul is starving for a win and will do everything in his power to make the Bucks NBA champions. If there is one massive upgrade Paul can have for the Bucks, it is his perimeter shooting. Even as one of the very best mid-range shooters in the league, Paul is a career 37% shooter from 3, which is perfect for the Bucks' up-tempo system. Paul is more of a threat than anyone the Bucks will be giving up, including Bledsoe. Bledsoe has struggled with his shot countless times in the playoffs and has even become a liability at times. Paul is quite simply never a liability from the perimeter, and this will free up both Giannis and Chris Middleton on the offensive end. Most importantly, Paul will have a major impact on the Bucks thanks to his ability to fit the Bucks' offensive and defensive scheme. Firstly, Paul is a master at the pick and roll. Placing Paul and Giannis in this play will wreak havoc in the East, since Giannis will be able to get the ball and attack instantly. Otherwise, Paul can play a pick and pop with Middleton and Lopez, which can also be a very effective play. Paul's ability to handle the ball and make the right play fits perfectly with the Bucks. Defensively, Paul can lead the pack at the point guard position. The Bucks have quality defenders which will only be boosted by Paul's presence. Paul is 35 years old, and thus he has a finite amount of years left in the league. He would probably prefer to spend those years competing for a title, something that has eluded him throughout his career, as opposed to being the veteran presence on a young team that is building for the future. On the court, the potential acquisition of Paul would make some serious sense for Milwaukee, as he could serve as a complementary scorer and playmaker to Giannis Antetokounmpo. When Antetokounmpo was on the floor and not hobbled by a sprained ankle that kept him out of most of Game 4 and Game 5 against the Heat, there was so much pressure on him defensively, whether he was handling the ball or not. Milwaukee could use a player other than Chris Middleton to handle the ball, and what better player to help Giannis and the Bucks for that than Chris Paul? Let us know how you feel about this trade in the comments below.